Hi crafty friends, today I'm so happy and proud to present you a new paper discovery release that is called Japanese Dream. First, let me take you really quickly through the new products and then we are going to make a card. We'll start with the largest die set from the release, and this one is called Japanese Garden and it's meant for scene building. The largest die from a set is about 6 by 8 inches, that is quite large, and then we have a bunch of other smaller dies. Those three are the mountain and hill outlines. One of the outlines has that flatter area, and that is created so that you can place that arbor or any other focal image that you might want to use. Other scene building elements include a little river that can also be a garden path, a mountain pine that you can attach to the side of the mountain or place it straight, some bamboo shoots, some snowy mountain outlines, a circle that can be used for the sun or for the moon, a nice little bridge, actually it's quite large, and a couple of branches that you can use to fill in the empty spaces. Next die set is called Japanese Icons, and this one includes some images that are typical for Japanese culture. So this is the border die that is also quite large and it has that stylized wave pattern. Notice that the actual images are much larger than the ones on the packaging. This die set can be used on its own, or you can combine it with the Japanese Garden die set, and this is exactly what I'm going to do today while creating a card. The next item in the collection is that 6 by 8 stamp set that is called Japanese Figures. This one includes 11 really intricate images, and by the way, there is also a matching die set. Each image has a corresponding die. Another stamp set is called Japanese Words, and this one includes some popular Japanese characters with the corresponding English words. You can use them together or apart. There is also that scroll image that you can use as a background for the sayings. And finally, there are also two beautiful embossing folders. One is called Japanese Peonies, but you can also think of it as the close-up of the cherry blossoms. You can actually notice that those flowers are very similar to the ones on a stamp set, but much larger. Both folders are A5 size, that is about 6 by 8 inches. The other folder is the gorgeous stylized wave pattern. There is actually one more item, a pretty patterned paper pad, but unfortunately that one is still on its way to me. So I'm encouraging you to click the link below and have a look at the papers as well. Now let's move on to the project. I used the largest die, a frame from the Japanese Garden die set, to create 3 frames out of white cardstock. Next, I'm going to back up one of the frames with the vellum paper. You can of course use the plain one, but I decided that this printed one from one of my previous collections will be great for this purpose. I'm using the die cut to kind of frame a portion of the pattern that I need for my project. Then I'll make a couple of marks with the pen to know where I should cut the vellum. And then I'm going to use the paper trimmer to trim it down. And now I'm going to refer to one of my very favorite techniques, that is layering the die cuts. And I'm going to apply some liquid glue and stick down all 3 frame die cuts one on top of another. This step is totally optional. You can use just one die cut if you want to. I just like that added dimension. Next, I'm going to do some stamping on a vellum background. So I'm placing my piece of vellum into the stamping tool. I'm applying some anti-static powder, and then I'm going to use some stamps from the set and the ones that I've chosen are the cherry branch plus a couple of lanterns. I'm going to apply some Versamark ink onto the stems and close up the lid. Next, I'm going to apply some embossing powder, and the one that I'm using is called Blue Odyssey by Nuvo. I really like how heat embossing looks on vellum. I think it has a bit more dimension than on the paper, and I believe that's because vellum is less absorbent, so more ink stays on surface and it can take up more embossing powder. And then, of course, I'm going to heat set the image. As always, the tools and supplies that I'm using are going to be listed down below in the description box, as well as on my blog. Now, when the image is heat set, I have to add one little finishing touch. You can notice that the string on the lantern is a bit short for the composition that I have created, so I'm using a ruler and an embossing marker to simply draw a straight line right up to the branch. Then I'm going to apply some embossing powder again and heat set the image. And by the way, guys, I have already created some more projects using the new products, so the next tutorial is coming out this Saturday. Now, when I'm finished with the heat embossing, I'm going to apply the frame onto the background. So again, I'm using a small amount of liquid glue. I'm placing the frame over the vellum and I'm holding it down with a couple of large acrylic blocks. Next, I'm going to die cut some elements to create a scene. I'm using the scrap piece of paper. This is actually the leftover from die cutting a frame. It's perfect for use for this purpose because it's going to fit right inside the frame. I'm going to use that outline die, the one that has that flat area that I was talking about. I will also be cutting a mountain outline out of the same piece of cardstock. This way the die cut will be trimmed down to the size right away. I'm keeping my color palette super limited, just blue and white, because this project really features the beautiful intricate outlines rather than colors. I'm going to stick down the ground die cut right at the bottom of the card, so I'm just applying some glue and I'm inserting it into the frame. You can see that the mountain outline is overlapping the lantern, and I would really like it to go behind the lantern and not in front of them. So what I'm going to do is to mark where the die cut overlaps the lantern, and I'm going to create some cuts with my craft knife right along the outlines of the lanterns. That's really easy to do since vellum is really thin and it's easy to cut either with the knife or with the scissors. Then I'm going to feed the die cut through the slits in vellum, and this way everything will be in the right place, the mountain outlines behind the lanterns. Next, I'm going to use some liquid glue again. I have it in a precision applicator bottle, and I'm applying some tiny drops of glue just behind the die cut, and I'm sticking it down. And now I'm ready to attach my focal image. To create that focal image, I'll be using the dies from a Japanese Icons die set that I showed you earlier, and as I mentioned, it works perfectly with the Japanese garden. I've die cut that sitting lady outline from blue cardstock, and I'm sticking it down right onto that flat area on a landscape. Then I'm also going to add the tea table. I have a die cut out of white, and it's going to overlap the first image a little bit. A teapot and a cup are also a part of the set, and I'm going to add them right on the table, but I'm going to place 2 cups instead of 1 because she's obviously waiting for someone. I will also be adding that wisp of steam right above the teapot. It's also the part of the set. Now my scene looks complete, and all there is left to do is add in a sentiment. Instead of using one of the sentiments from this collection, I have decided to use the one from my latest Papercraft Society subscription box, and that one is entirely tea related. And by the way, I just wanted to show you the card that I have created using the products from the box only. And if you are interested in this tutorial, I will leave a link to it down below in the description. The phrase goes, "Life is a cup of tea, it's all about how you make it." And I'm going to stamp it with the blue ink right at the bottom of my card. That saying sounds pretty philosophic, and I think it's going to match that calm and serene scene that I have created. Next, I have made the card base out of blue cardstock, the same one that I used for die cut images, and this one is hinged, although you can hardly see that hinge. And I'm going to stick down my panel onto the card base. I'm applying the glue behind the die cuts only, and this way the adhesive won't be visible through the vellum. Because the card base is a tiny bit larger than my panel, there will be a thin blue border all around the frame. And that's it, my project is finished. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Do check out the link below and have a closer look at all new products. And by the way, you can also find more inspiration from Craft Stash design team there. Have a wonderful day, and come back on Saturday. I'll be waiting for you here with the new tutorial. Bye bye!